I'm Gary Birtles, one of the old gits from a long time ago. You've got to tune into Tricky Talks, I believe, so just do it. All the best.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do. And still Robertson, getting his shot in, and a goal! Robertson!
Hello and welcome along to the Tricky Talks podcast. I hope everyone had a good Easter and enjoyed the long weekend and some time off work as we enter another exciting week for Forest with a Europa League Quarter Final first leg and an important Premier League game against Villa to look forward to. Here with me, as always, the whole gang is back. How are you, Chelsea?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Sorry, I didn't expect the dad joke to be so early in the podcast, Simon. I wasn't prepared for that. But yes, I'm good. I'm ready for football to be back on. I'm getting a bit fidgety and a bit restless now. I need some football back in my life.
Excellent stuff. Katie's here as well, fresh off the Door and Friends quiz last night, which was a great quiz, wasn't it, Kate? We enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was. It was really good fun. Yeah, and I think we did all right, Simon. I think we represented pretty well.
Yeah, although how you managed to get Nathan Collins, I've no idea. And for those that are in any doubt what we're talking about, go back and have a watch of the quiz because Kate pulled out an answer from absolutely nowhere to bag a 5-pointer, didn't you? So that was great
Studying
stuff.
is not cheating. That is all I'm going to say. I was looking up Premier League stats all afternoon, trying to get some in my brain. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, Mollo's here as well, of course, and you weren't actually on the broadcast version of the quiz, but you were taking part in the background, weren't you? And I know you did pretty well as well.
Yeah, I had to bail out before the end, but at the point that I left, I was leading, and I was determined to grind Door into the ground because we had a bit of fun on the open day playing that football thing where I scored an own goal. And then he's posted it everywhere, and if I'd have known it was going to be that serious, I would have had to whoop his backside, but there we go.
Yeah, I didn't realise you bailed out earlier. I just thought you didn't know the answers because you were chipping in all the way through, and all of a sudden it went quiet when it got to the current Premier League or Forest sections.
I was like that marathon runner that was winning and then had to drop out, but never mind. Other things came up.
Yeah, like I say, go back and watch the quiz if you can because it was a great, fun evening had by all. Chelsea, you mentioned about you getting a bit fidgety because it has been a while, hasn't it, since we've actually had any football to talk about. We haven't got any action to talk about necessarily as such today, although we might have. We'll come on to that. But how desperate are you for football to return this Thursday?
You just get, I think, especially because it's been a bank holiday weekend as well, you feel a bit lost. Like there's been, you even like, I mean, I work quite a lot of the weekends anyway, but that kind of keeps you going through your shift when your updates are coming through, and sometimes you get your Friday night games, your Saturday games, and then your Sunday. You just feel a bit like you don't know what to do with yourself. And a lot of the time when I have got some time off, we all go round my nan's and we're all watching the games, and yeah, you just feel a bit lost. And even like FPL, I'm a bit like, well, I can't do my team yet in my transfers. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't been able to do that. Even my predictions, I thought, no, I've got to hold fire and wait for those. So yeah, I just can't wait. You do feel a bit lost. It's quite worrying. I remember seeing a quote once and it said, "Wow, I didn't realise that 11 players on a pitch could depend so much on my happiness," and it's so true. It really is. So yeah, very restless, but looking forward to Thursday and the weekend, and yeah, can't wait for football and Forest to be back.
Yeah, the players have had a long, nice break, except those who've been on international duty. So they're in a good spot to approach the run into the season, aren't they? And we'll talk about the upcoming games shortly. But I want to just take a step back for a moment because there was a very, very important event that happened a weekend or two ago now, wasn't it? And that was the Garibaldi Girls Gala. I know Ellie's put a lot of work into that, Mollo, in terms of organising the event and pulling together all of the prizes and the meal that everyone was served, and obviously Jason Lee was the special guest. Just want to talk you through that evening, Mollo, and I'll give you an opportunity to do that as well, Kate. But Mollo, as you were closely linked to that organisation, how did it all turn out in the end?
Yeah, it was a very pleasant evening. The 2-day build-up was extremely busy, should we say, because Ellie couldn't quite get everything over the line on her own, so that's where your family dives in and your life gets taken over for a couple of days. And then there was other people on the outside, but the evening itself was very pleasant. It was relatively small, but I think it was about 30 people or so there. Jason Lee was just absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to find the opportunity to hear him on the pod, because he's got some very fantastic, very, very funny and fantastic stories, most of which are broadcastable. He worked for Barry Fry, didn't he? So he's got that. He worked for Steve Evans. Not all of that will be broadcastable, but the Barry Fry story is obviously a great character of the game. He's obviously time at Forest, various clubs. A really, really nice guy. I knew him a bit before, but got to spend a bit more time with him. So that went really well. The raffle, the prizes that they all pulled together, because I think there's a group of the Garibaldi girls have been involved, were fantastic. Big thanks to obviously Nottingham Forest putting in a signed shirt, which, fair play, the winner was somebody that had bought a ticket that lives in Australia. And there were lots of people won lots of prizes. I won nothing, even though I spent about a month's wages on tickets, it felt like. And yeah, really not. Food was really good, to be fair. Credit to Forest. When it came out, I thought that doesn't look very big, but what I hadn't realised is there was loads of it. So it was like a tapas thing. So amazing. And ultimately, all for a really, really good cause. The lady from the Women's Centre in Nottingham did a little presentation early on to say what it was all about, and it's kind of, I think, probably inspired everyone to buy more raffle tickets on the night as well, because it's a great cause and a great charity, and I forget how she worded it, but a very worthy charity where the money goes into the charity 100%. For every £1 you put in, she said £8 gets spent because of voluntary time and whatnot. And ultimately, I forget the exact figure, but on its first go, about 1,000, just under or round about, I said I'd round it up for £1,200 earned. And the Tricky Talks voucher was very greatly received, of course, by the winner, lucky winner. But no, it was really pleasant. I really enjoyed it, and it was worth all the stress and the build-up and everything that went with the stress of organising it. I now have a giant plant that's hovering between my back door and my back garden, depending on the weather, till Glenn comes up to collect. It's like a triffid, but I'm scared to death of killing it because I'm rubbish at looking after stuff. But yeah, great evening, I thought, in the end.
Who won the Tricky Talks prize, the voucher?
Her name's Andrea, one of the Garibaldi girls. So yeah, she was delighted to get that. So I said that we'd give her a shout out on the show and that she should give us a listen.
Yeah, well done, Andrea. Enjoy your prize. Any idea what she's going to spend the voucher on, Kate?
No, she didn't say. If I were her, I'd wait till next season's shirt comes out and go early. But it's up to her.
Definitely. And Kate, you attended as well, of course. How did you find the evening? Because you also won your own little prize, I believe.
Did win a little prize, yeah, which was lovely. I think it was the social media star, so yeah, I'll take that. So yeah, I got a little prize. Meant I got to go up and have a photograph with Jason Lee, which you don't need an excuse for. So that was lovely. And yeah, it was just a really lovely evening. Like I was sat at one of the tables near the door, and I was just sat chattering away. And then Jason Lee just kind of walked in, just kind of casually strolled into the room and just kind of went, hi. And I just looked up and he was there and I was like, hi, had a little bit of a fangirl moment at this. And he's very, should we say, he is a commanding presence. So as soon as he walked in, the evening really lifted and he was just a really humble guy chatting to everybody. And yeah, I got brave by the end and went up to the top table and sat there and listened to some of the stories too, which was really lovely, and just chatting to all the other Garibaldi girls, because it was, of course, a year celebrating since the Garibaldi Girls sort of was created, and that was nice as well, to sort of, some of them that I've seen before over the years at games and at meetups, and some that I've never met before, but basically everybody just coming together as Forest fans for a really good cause, all in really, really good spirits. So absolutely kudos to Ellie for all of it, for the Garibaldi Girls and for the gala, and yeah, massive thank you to Jason Lee, who was an absolute star. So yeah, fantastic.
Somebody got wobbly legs. I wasn't sure who it was. Was it UK or Mollo?
He smelled great, didn't he, Kate?
He did. That was the one thing about him. Oh my goodness, yes, he did. Yeah, obviously.
I'll tell you what, though, in Kate's defence, he looks like he's still. I know obviously his knees, he said, are gone. He looks a physical specimen that could still be playing today. Some footballers and some podcasters let themselves go as they stop playing, but he looks like he could still play almost. But then he was. I mean, I don't want to. He'll talk about it, I'm sure, when we get him on. But he was a good all-round athlete anyway, and he's got a great story about tennis that I'll save for. I've loved it because he was a very good tennis player as well. But I'll save that one. He will.
Any plans to repeat the event in a year's time, Mollo?
I don't know, to be fair. I don't know what the plan is. I never know with Ellie. She'll come up with some idea, but I don't know what it'll be. Because ultimately the idea is to raise awareness of the Women's Centre, raise funds. That's key. But when you put on an event like that, my fear, not on the night, but a month or two before, was make sure you don't lose money kind of thing, because there's quite a lot of overheads on a thing like that. But thankfully ended up making some money. So like as Stephen Redgrave said, if you see me getting involved again, just shoot me. No, we'll have a rest on that one for a while before we start thinking for the second year anniversary.
All right, good stuff. On to matters on the pitch then, and Forest held an open training session at the weekend, which I know you guys attended. And Mollo, you were there with your family. I don't know whether your boys were there, Kate, as well. But it was. Tell me a bit about the session, because obviously Chelsea and I, not living locally, we weren't able to go. But tell us about the session and how it went. And in particular, I want to talk about Chris Wood, because he was very much part of that session, wasn't he? How does he look? Does he look sharp?
He did, yeah. He looked sharp. He looked up for it. He was all smiles. I certainly couldn't see any limping happening or any, straining or movements. He was very into it. He scored a few goals in the matches and the drills that they did, and looked genuinely happy to be there, and got a big round of applause when people saw him come out. And whenever pretty much he did anything, everybody was like, yes, it's Chris Wood, yes. So yeah, absolutely great to see him there. I think I went to the one that was the previous season as well. I would say the difference with this one was there were a lot more people there. So the one that they did the previous season was a little bit more intimate, and you did get to sort of chat to the players and take pictures with them, whereas this, there were, I don't know how many, a few thousand people there. So it was different. This was very much more a spectators event rather than something that you felt you were massively interacting with, but still very, very interesting. Nice to see them out there. Nice to see that sort of team spirit that, we love about Forest. Nice to see them having a laugh, particularly Taiwo and was it Ola Aina at one point had a little bit of fun on the pitch. So yeah, really, really enjoyable. Just Wilf that I took, not both the boys. But yeah, great fun.
Any other particular aspects of the session stand out for you guys in terms of were they practicing penalties, for example? I know the Junior Reds had a bit of a penalty shootout, but obviously with a quarter-final tie on the horizon, you'd like to think that would be on the agenda somewhere. Did they put on a bit of a display, or was it a light-hearted training session, or were they really put through their motions, Mollo?
I think ultimately, Kate's hit the nail on the head. Last year, it took place when everyone was working, so the attendance was a lot smaller. This time it was a free event at the end of the day, and kudos to the club for putting it on. They played Rondo for about 15 minutes, and they did an 8-a-side game where I don't think there was any goals that weren't offside, so it was very typical of the real thing. There's very few tackles going in. It was all very funny and light-hearted, and we'll talk about the Taiwo incident later where Luca took out Taiwo by mistake. I think it was a dead leg, and there was a big panic and people rushing over and that. There were 7,000 young supporters there with parents and stuff, and I saw quite a few people that had taken their youngsters down. And what I like about it, and I think you might have seen this before, Simon, if you've ever been lucky enough to watch professionals actually trained in their own environment, and back in the day you could just walk in, I know you don't anymore, it's good, because when you read, maybe idiots like us, people say, oh, how is he a footballer and all that. When you see them training and you see how they can manipulate a ball and the things they can do under no physical pressure, a little bit of physical pressure, but no match day pressure, it kind of makes the people who criticise. I was particularly watching because I've got this thing in my head that I think James McAtee is going to be quality. I've said it all the way through. I know he struggled for us and he's settling in. I've said it all the way through because of his first touch. His first touch is very, very rarely wrong in any way, shape or form. And I was watching him and I was watching backward quite a lot. And the things they can do with the football, we wish we could do. And, even you and I, Simon, who played for years at an okay level, but the one who really stood out for manipulating a ball won't be a surprise. And the things he was doing on the ball, I don't mean necessarily the passing and the shooting or any of that, just Gibbs White. It's like he can mess around with the ball with his feet the way we can with our hands. It's another level to anything I've seen in training ever. And I've lucky enough to watch the players when I was a kid train under Cloughie. I watched a bit of a session under Platty once. When Paul Hart was manager, I was regularly down there, work related. I've never seen a player manipulate a ball in training like Gibbs White. It's like he's attached to him. And we see that sometimes in games, don't we? So we know how talented he is. And it's no wonder, no matter where he plays, managers love him, apart from German managers. So that my big takeaway was I hope all the people that are always slating players have seen what these guys can do with a ball that they can only dream of doing, even if they miss an open goal in a match sometimes or whatever. And also, kudos to the club, putting on a free event for 7,000 people. Maybe it was a lost leader, I don't know. Obviously, the people were buying stuff in the shops and the food, but, there was a lot of stewards and security and stuff were there, so it wasn't a free event for the club. So fair play to them for giving something back to their particularly young supporters. I went there because Henry was going, and as much as a fanboy as I might have been in the past, I was never going to watch the players train on my own or whatever as an adult because I just wouldn't. But
it's just a bit weird.
Henry, well, yeah, and I took Henry and I was like saying to him, watch, even in training, watch what Milenkovic does, because I'm always saying to Henry, he enjoys playing and everything. I always say to him, just watch the player who plays your position and watch what he does in training. He doesn't smash anyone like he might in a match, but his positional, all that sort of stuff, he's training the way he would play. I said, I'm not that parent being a pushy parent, you need to be the best player in the world, but I always say to Henry, treat training how you would play more or less. Don't smash your teammates, but try and improve, because the better you are, the more fun it becomes, and it's that kind of thing. So yeah, but really, really well run, really, really well organised, well run. It was weird trying to park beforehand because I didn't realise how big. It was 7,000 was the official attendance, I believe. So kudos to the club, because as Kate said, it was a spectator event. And, we've just got to accept now we're in the Premier League, those days of having regular contact with players, they're gone. They live in a different world to us now. It's not the club we once knew anymore. It's moved in a different direction. Not worse, just different. And going back to something Chelsea said earlier, I watched the England game, which was dull, but I was hate watching Coventry v Derby, enjoying Derby lose. But oh my God, Championship football was so much more entertaining than the average Premier League game. It reminded me, both teams trying to score. Luckily, Derby weren't very good at it and got a dodgy penalty, so that was the only reason they got 2. Tackles flying in. Probably been about 3 sending offs in the Premier League, because every tackle is a yellow card. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, it was a really, really good event run by the club.
I know what you mean about football moving in a different direction, because in the days of social media now, every footballer is under an enormous amount of scrutiny, which they weren't back in the day when we were that age, were they?
Yeah.
You didn't have social media, and any opportunity to interact with a player was always gratefully received. I remember meeting Gary Birtles once at some function that I was lucky enough to attend as a kid with my dad, and my brother went, David, and even my mum went, I think. And funny story from that one, I think I mentioned it before, we walked into the event and my dad had a beard at the time, very similar to Gary Birtles, and some kid ran up to him and thought he was Gary Birtles. So as a kid, thinking another kid was a famous footballer was quite cool, really. Yeah, we're all very much looking forward to getting back into the proper action, though, this coming Thursday. Yeah. We'll talk about the Porto game in a moment, but I think now is probably a good time to bring in this week's quiz question, Kate, if you've got one for us. And hopefully it's not naming all of the Forest managers since the year 2000, because we haven't got the time for that.
No, but it is.
I've got pen and paper.
Yeah, get your pen and paper, Molly.
No. I've only got my
it's quite
phone.
a simple one, but it won't be a quick answer. Okay, so Name all the teams that Forest have drawn with so far this season in the Premier League only.
Okay.
Okay, I need to get my notepad on my phone.
Mollo will take about 2 minutes to get all of that, I think. Right, so repeat that one more time, Kate, for me, please.
Name all the teams that Forest have drawn with so far this season. We're doing Premier League only.
Okie doke.
I'm going to pick Mollo's answer.
Do you want me to tell you how many there are? Would that be helpful?
Yeah.
Go on.
How many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different teams.
Okay, we'll come back to that at the end of the show. Let's move on to Porto. That is the main reason we are here today. Obviously, first leg of the quarterfinals of the Europa League approaching. Porto, we've played before, obviously, in the group stages, which we'll mention. But currently, Porto themselves are world ranked 16th. Their continental rank is also 16th. Their national rank is currently 2nd. They are currently unbeaten in 2 months. They haven't lost in that time. They've won, of the 10 games they've played, they've won 7, drawn 3. They've not lost at home all season. Their only 3 defeats in all competitions have come away from home. Obviously, Forest was one of those back in October, I think it was. They've lost the last defeat. In fact, their only defeat in the league this season was back in February against a team lower down the league. And they've recently lost their cup semi-final first leg away to Sporting. As I said, they currently sit first in the league. They've played 28, won 23, drawn 4, lost 1, scored 56, conceded 13, 73 points.
Stop talking, you're scaring me even more.
Yeah. In the Europa League this year, they've played 10, won 7, drawn 2, lost 1, of course. And again, that was the Forest, scored 17, lost 8. Notable opponents in the Europa League this year. They obviously played Forest, as I say. They could only draw with Utrecht, who we beat. They could only beat Malmo 2-1 at home, who we beat far more convincingly than that. And most recently, they did the double over Stuttgart, winning 2-1 and 2-0 to progress to the quarterfinals. So there's a lot of information to take in there, Chelsea, around the quality of Porto as an opponent. To me, it seems like the key to this game is going to be pitting Forest's current momentum against the fortress that is Porto at home. So how do you see the game? Is that where the key lies to this tie, do you think, or have you got your eye on some other aspect of the game that could work in Forest's favour?
It's just going to be momentum, and confidence, like you said, Simon. I mean, we went into the break on an absolute high, didn't we? And I remember Mollo was saying, which I completely agreed with, a part of me was like, I didn't actually want the break because you have built up that momentum and you didn't want it to stop. I feel like at the moment with Forest, especially obviously not being able to go to the open training session, but I know it's on YouTube and I watched it. Today. Forest, we know, is all about togetherness and it's all about family. And you definitely saw that watching the YouTube video of that, the open training session. And I think a lot of it is what we had been lacking recently with the manager changes. You could tell the players weren't happy. We as fans weren't happy because we know what Forest can be. And we know the togetherness, and I really was worrying that we were actually starting to lose that. I feel like now, over the past, I'd say month, that has been slowly building back up. And, I think we have seen it in the last few games. And I just hope that now long may it continue. And I do feel like now we have turned a corner. I know when Dyche came in, we were all very hopeful and, it was like, yeah, but the Forest family, he's going to bring us all back together. But it feels different now than what it did then with Dyche. I think we all wanted it to work and that's what we were clinging on for. Whereas now I think we have turned that corner and I think that is what is going to set us above Porto in this game, is that pure togetherness, the confidence, and we just need to go out there and just completely play our hearts out for that game.
Do you think there's a role for Chris Wood to play in this first leg, Chelsea? Because we talked earlier about how he's back in training and Kate said he looked sharp and he looked fit, no sign of any injury. Do you think he's got a role to play in this game or do you think it's too soon? Because we've heard him making a bit of a comeback in B-team friendlies or under 18s or whatever it is, and he didn't play in the last one. interestingly enough. And I wonder if that's because his involvement in the first team is being ramped up. So do you expect him to play any sort of role or not?
Well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Obviously, we all know that he's not going to play, anywhere near the full 90. But maybe if you just bring him on just to get him used to it, maybe after 80 minutes of some sort, just let him get the feel of of playing in the Europa. I'd just be great to see him back, wouldn't it? I mean, when you just asked me that question, a big old grin just came on my face. And that just sums it up, doesn't it? And I think every Forest fan feels like that at the moment. I know we are doing okay now and we're better than what we were. But having Chris Wood back, every time you speak to a Forest fan and you mention his name, we all start smiling. And that would be lovely, just to see him, play, even just giving him 6 minutes on the pitch, just to get him used to it. That would be perfect.
When I think about my reaction when I saw the team news when we were in Denmark, I think if I saw Chris Wood on that team sheet anywhere when it drops on Thursday, I will be doing cartwheels, honestly. Don't care who else is on it. I'll be like that. Yes, it was worth the trip.
That's what I was going to segue into, Kate, in terms of your reaction at Midtjylland when you saw the B team play. And it turned out all right in the end because I think we can recognise they did well on that particular night. But given the fact that they've had a bit of a rest, bit of a break, I said on the last pod, there are no more excuses in terms of tiredness or fitness needed now. They've had that rest and that break. They can't use that as an excuse anymore. Do you expect the A team to come back into consideration for every game now between now and the end of the season? And if so, is it a gradual thing to insert Chris Wood in there because Igor Jesus is the top scorer in the tournament at the moment with 7 goals? So he's certainly providing his worth in the competition. Is it, though, at the expense of Chris Wood?
I think it's worth remembering that when we played them at home before, we did put out a pretty strong team. There were a lot of what you would call the starters in there. I think Zinkernagel was in that team. Obviously, that's not a thing anymore in Douglas Luiz. But other than that, I think we pretty much went pretty strong, and we beat them. We beat them well, but it was 2 penalties that were scored, and we have to remember that. And I remember at the time, Mollo, you saying, "I don't care how the goals come as long as they come," and absolutely right. And we would absolutely take 2 penalties on Thursday night, but it was a strong team that beat them before, and I think they are stronger now from the season that they've had, and we've had a pretty turbulent time, so that needs to be remembered. What I will say is that you asked what I would expect. I would expect that he will play a similar team to the one that he played in Denmark. I think he's made it quite clear that he is prioritising the Premier League and that starting 11 to be available and fit for those games. And I don't anticipate that this will be any different. I imagine it will be similar in that there will be a smattering of both. I would love to see Chris Wood. I think he's the exception, isn't he? Because he's coming back and we want some minutes, and he was named in that squad for a reason. So I think seeing him on the bench is a possibility, and it's something that I would love to see. And I think playing him in that game on Thursday doesn't mean he won't also be on the bench for Villa on Sunday.
I think he's going to make an appearance, Kate, one way or the other, I think, in either of the 2 legs, because you don't name somebody in a squad for the Europa League knowing there's a risk that the team could get knocked out at this stage. You don't put him in the squad and say, we're going to save him for the semi-final or the final or whatever. It doesn't work like that. You have to reap the benefits immediately. Otherwise, what's the point? His spot could have gone to somebody else. So I think on that basis, my thoughts are that he will make an appearance at some stage. It was the 3 players who were in that first game was Zinchenko, Kate. I'd love it if Zinkernagel, where is he now?
Did I say Zinkernagel?
You did. I don't know who. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, yeah, absolute hero, but I don't know what happened to him. Where did he go?
I loved Philip Zinkernagel. You see, that's why.
He's great.
Zinchenko, you're quite right.
Yeah, Douglas Luigi mentioned, who's no longer with the team, and Dan and Doy was the other starter who's not currently a regular. So you're right, they did put out a pretty strong team, which they got by with 2 penalties, didn't they? Mollo, Gibbs-White and Jesus scored in the first leg. How much of a similar game are you, or we're not obviously talking specifically about the home game, but Porto looked a fairly decent footballing side on that night without creating too many major concerns. I think I remember the phrase I used, and this is one that you'll remember, Kay's organised chaos, because it was Deitch's first game, wasn't it? And everybody was up for it. It's going to be a different kind of game, this next one, isn't it? Because it's away from home. And like I said earlier, it's a bit of a fortress at Porto. So would you go strong?
Always, but I mean, we said that last time, and the team in Denmark that you put out, some people had already given it up as soon as they saw the team. And to be fair, the players that have not necessarily shone while they've been settling in really did shine that day. And if anything, as we all said at the time, we weakened through the substitutions. I have lots of concerns as well as positives, because I thought Porto looked a really decent side who moved the ball well. I thought they struggled a bit with the physicality Forest showed, but they'll be more than ready for that. I genuinely think we need to come back from there with a very good result, not just still in the tie. I think we've got to at least draw, because we've not been strong at home, and the fans at home have been pretty poor, if we're being brutally honest. I think the away support is obviously another level, as we know from travelling. It's going to be tough. They're a very, very good side. I know the Portuguese league isn't the best, and when you look at their losses, they've not lost many, but they beat Braga the other day, as we should have done, or a couple of weeks back. I think the tie it won't be won in Porto, but it could be lost in Porto, if that makes sense. I wouldn't back us to come back from not winning the tie, or drawing at least the tie out there. I think if we lose out there, we're in a very precarious position, to put it mildly. But it's Forest, so you never, ever know.
I picked out a couple of key matchups that could be pivotal in deciding the outcome of the game. One of them I wanted to talk to you about, Molo, was Pepe versus Ola, because he's obviously a bit of an explosive winger. Is Pepe... Will he test Aina's defensive discipline? Because we know Ola likes to get forward, and we expect him to feature, even though he wasn't an active participant, Aina, in the recent open training. But do you think that's a key matchup that could be kind of help not decide the game, but it could influence the game to a certain extent?
Depending on how he picks a team and what subs occur, it could influence the game late on, particularly because coming back from injury and everything we know about Ola, his last 10 minutes are never as good as his first 10 minutes in terms of his cardio and whatnot. So I think there's very few wingers on the planet, and they're here and they're not playing in our competition, that I wouldn't back Aina to beat one-on-one, mark out the game, for both our fullbacks, in fact. Obviously anyone can have a bad day. However, it's those last 10 or 15 minutes, if the game's starting to get stretched, if it's tight and they're pushing to get ahead, there's so many variables, isn't there? But I think it is a key matchup. I also think that the guy, I've forgotten his name now, that scores all the goals for them, that's key as well, because if he's playing, then back. It depends again. Does he go with his first choice back four? Who knows? Because we all know that we've got very good defensive players as a starting lineup, but sometimes the drop off is a little bit more than you'd like, and they've got, Porto a quality side. All the sides in the quarterfinals are going to be quality, aren't they? But I think I'd back Ola Aina against anybody, certainly in the first 80.
Was it Rodrigo Mora you're talking about as their key man up front?
I think so. He's a top scorer.
Yeah, if it is him, he got injured on Saturday. He's got a muscle injury, so there's a bit of a doubt as to whether he's actually going to feature on Thursday at the minute. They've got a bit of an injury crisis already, because they've got a couple of long-term absentees. Samu Aghihua, and apologies if I've butchered his name, and Luke de Jong are long-term absentees. They're key players for Porto. And the goalie, apparently, Costa, has also got a bit of an injury as well. So they're up against it. It's early days, of course. We don't yet know what the team sheet's going to look like, but how significant, Chelsea, could that be in terms of Porto missing a few key players at home?
Well, we've been there. Forest have been there, haven't they? With injuries, and we know how hard it is when you got your, obviously you got your squad on the pitch, and then you kind of look at your bench and go, God, all right then. So we've got no one to bring on then. And what about if the likes of whoever gets injured? Well, still got no one to bring on, no like for like. So we know how important that is. That could have a massive impact. We know how it was with us with that season. It was hugely, well, yeah, it was massive to us. So we know how much that can affect. Obviously, it works completely well in our favour. I'm not going to dispute that. But it's just tricky because with injuries, there's not a huge. It's like how long's a piece of string, isn't it? You don't know how many players are going to be out. Are they going to be, back for the second leg? We've got no idea. So yeah, it will just be. It's just going to be one of them games. It depends how we show up. It depends how they show up. But any injuries that are not in our squad are obviously going to be beneficial to us for whoever we're playing.
Well, we thought that with Fenerbahce, didn't we? But we beat their full-strength side 3-0 and got spanked, and we were very. And same with Fulham. It's that Samu Agabo is the guy I was talking about. He scored 7 goals in 6 games in Europe, hasn't he? And he's got about 15, 20 goals in the league. So if if he's not fit.
That's the one I mentioned. Apparently he's got a long-term injury, apparently.
Okay, that's interesting.
How accurate that is, according to my sources, I'm not sure. But
yeah.
I think I've just reached a point with it where I feel like it doesn't owe me anything anymore. We've had this incredible time. I've been to all these places. I've picked off all these grounds of highs and lows, as you always get with Forest. And that's kind of how I view this one. It's almost like a bonus, and I would obviously love to go all the way to the final and be there in Turkey. Of course I would. But I do feel this is going to be very hard. It's going to be a very, very difficult game.
Can I ask you a question then, Kate?
Oh, go on.
If you truly feel that way, can you answer this question? Have you or have you not booked or tried to book hotels in Istanbul for the final, just in case?
Well, only because.
So it owes us.
The one that we stayed at for Fenerbahce, I noticed was fully booked, and I would have loved to go back there. So no, and like I said, I would love to do it. I would love to do it and go all the way to the final. Of course I would. But I do feel like we've had a really good run. Like as a fan, I've had a really good run. I've got to do things I never thought I'd do. I've got to see places I never thought I'd see. And, if this is it, what a fantastic
you and I are going to make it happen.
And I won't feel like that at all. On Thursday night, I won't feel like that at all. It will be absolutely everything. I'll be absolutely beside myself. I'll be sending you all my rant messages and my fear messages and my everything else. But right now, in this moment, thinking about checking into my flight while I sit here tonight, I just think it's been great. It owes me nothing.
But surely that's an appetite to want more, though, isn't it, Kate?
I think I started off by saying, of course I want it. I want more. I want to go again. I want to go to the final. Of course I want those things. I think I just feel that it's been a bit like living someone else's life. I'm about to go on, what is this, 7?
Yeah.
7th trip. 7th country in 7 months. Whose life is that? That's not my life. Whose life is that? And I think I've just sort of reached that point with it where I just think, no matter what happens, what an incredible time to have been a Forest fan and what an incredible journey to have been on. So, and like I say, of course I want it. I'm not belittling that. And I'm sorry if it comes across like I am. I just think it's been amazing. And we're going again on Wednesday. And how fantastic is that? And if it is the last hurrah, we're going to have a great time going and supporting them. And if we can eke it out and get to the semi, the final, then absolutely all the better, and I'll be there for it. But either way, it's been a pleasure.
And we know that Forest's only way into European competition next season will be by winning the Europa League, and they're going to get in the Champions League if that is the case. But if that doesn't materialise, I'm convinced that another European journey is on the horizon somewhere in the not too distant future, because if we can get to the end of the season and stay in the Premier League, I don't think this sort of season will happen again. I'd like to think it was a one-off for various reasons.
Okay.
And I don't think Marinakis will let it happen again, to be honest. I think they'll put measures in place to stop it happening again, and it will continue to follow that upward trajectory. And I'm convinced a cup win is around the corner if they can get through this season. And obviously we know a cup win is a pathway to Europe. So I'm convinced that we'll be following this European journey, Chelsea, in the not too distant future again. I'm absolutely positive of that.
Well, I'd like to hope so. We all like to hope so. But
we need to get Des
Simon's
Oldham
got
on
the
the show,
delight
because he'll tell you a different story.
My question to you though, Simon, is: are you going to be making sure your passport's up and ready for that next journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry,
I
Kate.
thought
Go
so.
on. Chelsea, I'll talk to you more about that in a moment. But Chelsea, go on. You were in the middle
Oh no, I
of
was just saying,
commenting.
Simon's got the delight of coming to my house on Thursday to watch it with me and my dad. Enter at your own risk, Simon.
That's my own European journey. I think just travelling. Right. Yeah, absolutely, Molly. I think let's put next season to one side on the assumption for now that they're not going to get in Europe. You never know, but it's not unreasonable to think that they're not going to win the Europa League. That's a fair comment. So given the fact that a European journey is going to be at least a year or two away, Danny's going to be that much older. His education will change, obviously, as he goes into sixth form and university and whatever. So time might be more accessible, if you see what I mean, because he's away in Valencia this week on a school trip, and under no circumstances was I allowed to go to Porto. Even if a ticket magically became available to me, he said, no, I don't want you to go because I'm missing out. So and he's right to a certain extent. I don't want to go without him because I want to share those experiences with him, as you do with you boys, Kate, and you too, Mollo, with Henry and Ellie and George if he goes. You want to share those thoughts. The final, though, is a different story. He's done his mocks. It's in school time, so I'm going to do everything I can to persuade the head of year to allow him on an educational trip to Turkey, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Very quickly then, I do want to go through some quick predictions from everybody in terms of what they think is going to happen of the game. Before we do, we are going to talk about Villa a little bit because we're not going to be able to give you another recording before the Villa game due to the aforementioned trip to Porto. But Chelsea, what do you think the game's going to turn out like?
What, the Villa game?
No, the game.
Porto, okay. Head or heart? Head or heart? I'm going to go to Porto.
Okay, Mollo.
2-0 Porto.
Kate.
2-2.
Oh.
I thought you were going to say 2-2 Porto then, but then that's not possible, is it? So I was going to go 2-0 Porto as well, but I'm going to be different. I'm not going to go the same as Mollo, so I'm going to go 1-0 Porto. And you know what? If they, like Mollo said, if they're still within touching distance at the end of 90 minutes, then it's a result. As long as they don't get turned over, in which case, you're right, I think Mollo said the tie can be lost. It can't be won. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah. It's a bit like we learned from Fenerbahce.
Yeah.
We thought it was won. I suppose it was in the end, but it was a bit scary until we got that Callum goal.
Right, I do want to quickly touch on Villa as well. As I said, you guys will be travelling back from Porto, and I think, Chelsea, you're working on Friday as well, so we won't be delivering another pod in advance of that Villa game. But they themselves are playing in the Europa League away at Bologna, so they've got Thursday, Sunday game as obviously as alongside we have. They've also got a Champions League spot to play for, so it's not going to be an easy game. They're not in the greatest of form though, Villa. They've won one of the last 5, but it's another key game, isn't it, in terms of how do Forest respond after an away European trip. They did it at Spurs. Can they do it again against Villa, Kate?
Yeah, I always fancy us against Villa at home. I don't know why, I just do. There's a big family connection with Villa, as I've mentioned before, so I've always followed them quite closely. Never fancy us at Villa Park, but I often do fancy us at home. So I hope to get something out of the game on Sunday. I hope that we aren't coming home with heavy hearts after Porto. I hope we're coming home in a positive mindset to get at least a point, maybe even 3 on the Sunday. And like you say, they're not in great form. They're also playing in Europa. So I can't see any reason why we can't go into that game and try and win it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the good thing is, I think Leeds play Man United away on the Monday night, Mollo, don't they? Wolves play West Ham, which is a crucial game down at the bottom, and Spurs, the free-falling Spurs, are away at Sunderland, and who knows whether they're going to get a managerial bounce or not. They're also playing on the Sunday at the same time. So things could look a lot better or a lot worse come Monday evening, depending on the result of that Leeds game.
Absolutely. It's that roller coaster on, isn't it?
Mm.
Again, I think Villa are one of the best sides in the league at home on their day. So, like Kate said, the fact we're playing them at home and on our gaff helps. Normally, not so much this season, that's my concern, but I feel like because we'll be going in as underdogs this time, perhaps the crowd will stay with the team and get behind them like we did against Arsenal and we got the draw, one of our 7 draws against 6 teams. But what I would say is Villa's drop-off in form they had was almost solely down to losing their whole midfield. They brought in a certain Douglas Luiz to shore things up, which it absolutely did not. Those players weren't out for very long, but most of them are back now, apart from Kamara, who I think's out long term. And, John McGinn's a very good player. So that midfield battle will be crucial. Depends who plays for them and for us a little bit on the Thursday. Any other day, I'd say this has got Ryan Yates written all over it. But obviously, he's very likely to be a key player on Thursday night. So he may not be in a position to play. I think it was a miracle that he came off the bench against Spurs, having put into the game that he did against, Midtjylland. I think it's a hard one, isn't it? Because Villa sound like they're out of form, but I also feel like they're coming back into form, or back into full strength. Their players haven't been out for very long, which is key because when you've been out for a long time, it takes a long time. Your match fitness takes time to come back. So I'd certainly, and it sounds really negative, but I'd certainly take a draw. I think any point against the big sides like that, and it's not big sides, the top sides, is a point in the right direction. And with the other games that are going on at the same time, I suspect West Ham will turn Wolves over comfortably. So that we definitely need that point. The Leeds one, I'm 99% sure Leeds will lose, but it would be typical of Man U to go and shaft us that way, wouldn't it? But, the league table doesn't really matter until the last game, but to me it matters. I don't want to drop into that bottom 3 at any point, but what's more important is getting out of it and clear of it. But if we were to turn Villa over, wow, what a boost that would be. We just don't know, do we?
No, that's the thing. They've had so many opportunities to put some daylight between themselves and the teams at the bottom with recent games, and they've failed to take it. Even the Spurs one, to a certain extent, was an outlier, wasn't it, Chelsea? You didn't think that they were going to produce that kind of performance and get that kind of result. So it's another opportunity, isn't it? And they're running out of these opportunities. So at some point, if they're going to stay up, they've got to take advantage of those opportunities as they're presented, I suppose. Yeah,
definitely. I completely agree with Mollo, and I don't think it's negative at all. I think having a point from Villa, I think that'd be brilliant. I do fancy our chances, especially being at home against Villa. But I can see this game. I wouldn't be surprised if it went anyway. I know Villa's run of form isn't great at the moment, but we know Villa are a good side. We know that we can pull things out of the bag. We know we can, draw the likes, of Man City, and we know we can do what we did against Spurs. We know we can perform like that. But equally, we know that we can match teams as well and come out with a draw as well, like we did with Man City. So I can see it going anyway. I think having a point on the board would be absolutely brilliant. And like Simon was saying, with all the other teams that are surrounding us at the moment, Leeds, like I said, Man United, be typical of Leeds to beat Man United. We know that. You'd like to think, that West Ham are going to get 3 points, and same with Spurs. New manager bounce, who knows what's going to happen there. So this whole weekend for me, I feel is like one big almost test of where we're going to fit and what things are going to happen now, because it's all a bit unknown at the moment with Spurs with a new manager bounce and how we all are. But like what Mollo was saying, as long as we do not drop into that bottom 3 at any point, and it's an extra point on the board if we do draw against Villa. So fingers crossed even for a draw.
I do wonder how that West Ham Leeds Cup tie yesterday, Kate, would play a part in the rest of the season, with Leeds on the crest of a wave, having got through to semi-final at Wembley. You do think, well, are their players going to play for a place on the starting 11 at Wembley? Because they don't get that many opportunities to do that. I remember Brian Clough used that as inspiration when they got to the 91 Cup final. He very much said, you've got to play for your place in that starting 11. And they went on a terrific run, didn't they? And they beat everybody in sight in the run-up to that final. West Ham, on the other hand, though, you think, well, is that going to be a massive blow to their confidence, losing on penalties but it does clear them. It clears their fixture list a little bit as well. So where do you stand on the importance of that game yesterday? Could that play a significant role?
I think it couldn't have gone better for us. You know, they've had to play extra time, so they had all the extra minutes. It came down to penalties. I have to say, I got a real kick out of the West Ham fans that had left, not them being allowed back in. I have to say, I had a right good little chuckle when I saw that, and I thought, yeah, that's right. And I get why they did and all that, but that did make me laugh. That there were pictures of them, weren't they, standing outside the ground watching it on someone's phone that was FaceTiming them from inside the ground, and I thought, yeah, there you go. But I honestly don't think that could have gone any better for us. They played loads of minutes. They went all the way to penalties. One of them got absolutely soul destroyed. And it's not just about whether or not they're playing for that final place as well. It's about where they're putting their priorities. I think Leeds fans feel very safe. And they probably will be. You know, on balance, I think they probably will be. But in actual fact, they are still in it. So, you know, it is also where they're going to put their priorities. So they now have more fixtures to manage, Leeds do, and they're going to have to manage the players accordingly, and they've had a lot more minutes in those legs, and whereas we are looking at feeling fairly fresh, they aren't. So I honestly don't think it could have gone better for us. I think the fact that West Ham were beaten again, and, you know, there's been a level of resilience in West Ham, but yet they still keep getting beaten. So again, I'm hoping that the confidence has taken a knock there, and I'm hoping that is the scenario that plays out for them, that they keep on trying, but they keep getting pegged back. So I don't think it could have gone any better. In reality, it's a different competition and it doesn't have any direct impact. And like you guys, I think I'm more concerned as to whether or not Spurs will get any kind of a bounce out of their managerial signing. But ultimately, like we always say, you look after your own house, and that's what Forest have got to do. And that win at Spurs has put us in a good position to do that. So we go on, we try and beat Villa. Like I absolutely agree, a point is great, but we go on and we sort our own selves out. And yeah, whatever will be in terms of the teams around us. But I do think we're in a decent enough position now to feel some hope.
Right, thanks for that. We're coming to the end of our show, so we're going to go through the quiz question, Kate, aren't we now? Remind ourselves and the listeners what the question was again, please.
Name all the teams that Forest have drawn with so far this season. We're doing Premier League only.
And how many did you say there had been?
7.
7. I've got 5.
I've got 6, with the 7th one being the team we drew with twice.
Okay. We did draw with one team twice, you're quite right. Go on
Chelsea,
then, you do your 5 first, Simon.
Okay, I've got Man City, Fulham, Wolves, Arsenal.
I've got Palace twice.
Oh yeah, of course.
And did you say Burnley?
No.
He didn't.
No, Burnley
Okay.
away. And then in the Premier League, that's it. Because I was checking there wasn't 7, so I've written down every Premier League team. And
Yeah. How many did you get, Chelsea?
Oh, I got 3. And then my brain just decided to stop working. I had Fulham, Wolves and Man City, and that was all I had. And funny enough, it was very linked to emotion out of all the ones that I remember.
Yeah. I know some of them had some connotations, didn't they? I am just triple checking that I have 100%.
Do you mean if it's a come from behind
I
draw,
absolutely have.
Chelsea?
So the one that you're missing, Mollo, is we drew 2-2 with Man United.
no, we didn't. We beat them 2-1, I thought.
Did we?
What were
When
you
was
saying?
the game?
We beat them 2-1. Because in my head... Oh, no, they scored late on, didn't they? That stupid goal from... No, you're right. I wrote Man United down as beating them 2-1. No, you're right, because it was that volley at the end, wasn't it, from the crap punch out. You're right.
Oh yeah.
So Palace twice,
Yeah.
1-1 both times. Burnley once, 1-1. Man U once, 2-2. Arsenal
it's
once,
that one.
0-0. Wolves once, 0-0. Man City once, 2-2. And Fulham once, 0-0.
I blanked out their injury time equaliser, haven't I?
Oh.
That's what it is. I remember it now. Because
Because it shouldn't have
Ahmad
counted.
scored the volley and it should never have counted.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Chelsea, your emotion is dictated by a draw. If it's a come from behind draw, or if it's a last minute equaliser for the opposition, does that determine your mood?
It was. Well, it was like I didn't expect us to draw against Man City. Absolutely elated. Expected us to completely thrash Wolves, and we absolutely didn't. And then desperately wanted something out of Fulham. Just a point.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Any final thoughts? Start with you, Mollo. Anything you want to bring up?
No, just let's keep on going. Looking forward to Porto, looking forward to Villa. If the boys can keep going the way they have recently, we should be okay. And I'll just pray, like Kate said, look after business our end, and hopefully De Zerbi will be a disaster there for the first few games, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, it does feel as though he's going to either explode or implode Spurs, doesn't it? Even more so, one way or the other. Kate, anything from you?
No, I'm glad that we're home to Villa, because going to Spurs after Denmark nearly killed me. So so I'm looking forward to another trip, and then coming home and watching Villa on Sunday. So yeah.
Last but not least, Chelsea, anything from you? What are you laying on Thursday?
I will apologise on behalf of my dad before you arrive. So
Not during.
there'll be me, Dad, Dean, all here, Simon. We'll have snacks, watch the game, and hopefully we get a win out of
Celebrate.
it. It could be a good omen, Simon, us watching it together. You never know.
Is Dean going to support Forest, or is he going to just deliberately support Porto to wind you up?
No, Dean's a closet Forest fan, and I wind him up about it all the time. I know he's a Town fan, and I get it. But I say to him, I go, Forest has got a very special place in your heart. And he goes, oh, well, maybe a little bit. And I even bought him for Christmas this small Forest pin badge. And I said, that's for the little place that Forest has in your heart. I said, you can keep that.
Nice. Well, I'm very much looking forward to coming around, Chelsea.
Good.
The only thing from me I was going to say is that we've got a new website, guys, haven't we? That's recently been launched.
I need to do my email.
So check us out on trickytalks.com. You'll have all of our latest episodes are on there, including all audio and video episodes. You've got a little few photos of your hosts that are on there. There's various different ways you can reach out and contact us. Our social media feed is now live on the homepage as well. So all of our social media posts on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, they are also on the homepage. And there's also a form you can fill in to send us your hot takes. So if you fill in the hot take form, you might get featured on the show as well. So go and check that out, because loads of plans to develop that also. Yeah, so that's trickytalks.com. And that's it. So thanks everyone for listening or for watching. We'll be back with you early next week with a review of both the Porto and the Villa games, and we'll look forward to that second leg at home to Porto a week on Thursday. So thanks again from us, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.